So hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is a live interview we're doing with Heavy Sweater, a Toronto-based pop-punk trio for the Northwest Emo show. This is going out, recorded onto YouTube, and we're also going to be playing them on the show next week, which is all about Manchester's emerging artists, but also going from Manchester to international. So, hey boys, thanks for joining me. Do you want to start by introducing yourselves?
Sure thing. I'm Michael. I play guitar and I do shit posts.
Nice. I'm Lucas. I play the drums.
I'm Mitch, and I play guitar and sing in Heavy Sweater.
Brilliant, that's great. So you've got the boys here. You've got kind of what they do. Do you want to talk me through the band a little bit first? Start with kind of where you've come from and the EP.
Sure. So we basically started, I guess, last January or so. I was on like an app looking for like musicians, trying to start like a new band. And that's how I met Michael. And, we kind of hit it off. We were exchanging demos and whatnot. Things were going pretty smoothly. And then Lucas sort of entered the picture. We sort of met him through Facebook. And so we actually had our first rehearsal like as like a band together. And then the whole like pandemic happened, right? So we kind of had to like talk online and like write songs online with each other. And then there was sort of like some time in like the fall where we could see each other again, and we were, I don't know, I guess seeing each other twice a week, and we fleshed out all the songs that we had been working on, and then decided to just like record it really quickly. And things worked out really nicely because we sort of like the last day we recorded like 2 days after the lockdown happened again, and we haven't actually even seen each other since. So yeah, we sort of like did the mixing and mastering like online with some of the friends that helped us. But yeah, that's sort of how the process went and how we met.
Cool, that's really great. Thank you, gents. Which is obviously something that's slightly different for us in the UK, because we had kind of a similar thing where we had a lockdown in November, and then we were okay until about Christmas, and then we've locked down again. But it's kind of still impacting different bands in different ways. And like if you listen to international different artists, especially if you're UK, they'll all be doing slightly different things. But apart from that, so we've got the EP and how you recorded it. You mentioned that you wrote a lot of the stuff over Zoom. Do you think that affected kind of your writing and the final project that came out with the EP?
Yeah, well, a lot of the songs were sort of finished. We all sort of write. Like I do pretty much all the lyrics, but in terms of like instrumentals, like everyone sort of got their own thing going on, and we sort of just like create demos and then, I don't know, add our own little things here and there. And then once we get into the room together, then we sort of like flesh it all out. But yeah, I would say some of the songs were, I don't know, more affected by that than others, because like I said, some of them were already pretty much finished. I'm thinking of one in particular that was like sort of strange because it was like all of us were writing it at once. But yeah, it was definitely a weird experience, like nothing I've really ever done before. I don't know what you guys would say about
I
it.
would say that
Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
no, yeah, I would say that it's definitely not a lockdown record. Like a lot of projects have come out, like the Bring Me the Horizon EP and the Charlie XCX album. They're very much lockdown records. Like you can hear the influence about like social commentary and just being like alone and cooped up, but like ours was very much kind of not that. We didn't really want to lean into it, and we just kind of wanted to go with our original vision. So
I think for me, it was probably the fact that you couldn't practice that often. For me, it's actually weirdly like a positive thing, because you had to finish the songs just for yourself. So if you were writing a demo, you couldn't lean that heavily on like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, jam it a little bit or like kind of work it out in the practice space as we go along. But you had to kind of listen, this is the structure, this, maybe add a little bit here and there. So that was for me actually a pretty positive experience, because it pushed us to actually finish a song, not just kind of do little snippets, do little demos here and there, but like write actual full songs.
Yeah, I can see that. I know a lot of the different artists that I've kind of spoken to have said how it's helped their songwriting or kind of helped them get over that barriers and that writing block. It's interesting that you mentioned like a pandemic record as well. Like there's some pieces that are coming out, projects that are coming out that are pandemic first, music second, maybe. But it's interesting to see that yours is a record that just so happens to be in the pandemic. It's still what it was supposed to be, and supposed to be intentionally. Speaking of the EP, with it, where would you start? What would you describe as the song on the project that's the most your sound? If you had one track to capture someone and be like, this is Heavy Swear, what's the one that you'd go to?
Yeah, can we answer on 3 and see if we all agree?
Let's try it.
All right,
Yeah,
let's
sure.
do it. So we'll go 3 and then go. Okay, ready? So 1, 2,
Start
3.
Puffin Boy.
Dogwood.
Oh shit.
Oh no, they're all different.
That's brilliant though. I kind of like that because it shows you've all got different, I guess that's all your different opinions of the band and your different like influences coming into it together and working together.
It's actually
I think we
really
all chose
Good.
songs that the other person wrote.
Yeah.
True.
Well, it's actually an interesting question and something that you have to, because it's our first EP, right? And then we did like a music video, and we obviously, in the process of promoting it, you sometimes have to decide to push certain songs over others. And it's actually like one of those questions you have to ask yourself as a band. And I think one where we never really found the answer to. So Dogwood was our music video, and that's a very distinct sound. And then called Technically Knocked Out. And then I don't know, like when we're just like sort of posting online or whatever, we'll sometimes use Start Puffin Boy, which is another song on the album. And they also have different vibes to them. And it's kind of hard to just like define your whole sound in just one song, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is interesting though. It's always interesting to get bands thinking about it because it might not define your whole sound, and it might not be, I don't know, some bands tend to go for, oh, this is the one we think will sell the best. But it's interesting. It's really good to see that you guys are just like, I like this one. This is the one that I vibe with the most. Another question I've got. So do you think the track that you'd recommend to me there, is that the same as when before you released the record? Did you think your opinions changed on the one that's like, yeah, this is the sound?
For me, I always loved Dogwood, even when it was a demo, more than the other songs. Like I love all the songs, but that one just always stuck out to me. So for me, it didn't change. I don't know how it would be for you guys.
Yeah, for me, Puffin Boy was one of the first instrumentals that Michael sent me, and I was like, okay, this
Yeah.
hits like right away. Like I was having like good like lyrical ideas, and I really workshopped that one for a while. So I really liked how that one ended up turning out, and it sort of got that cool intro idea that Michael's been pushing on us, and I've really come to like it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it changed necessarily. It definitely, having them actually recorded and mastered and all that stuff, you kind of experience them differently because suddenly like the focus shifts from like maybe when you're playing them in the practice space, I would focus on my drums or whatever. And then when you hear the finished product with like maybe added effects or some vocal harmonies or whatever, like on Dogwood, we added these like vocal harmonies that we obviously didn't do in the practice space. And that definitely changed the vibe of the song a bit. For me, I think it was TKO because I remember Mitch, you had the whole demo done. And it might have been maybe the first, when I joined the project, maybe one of the first songs that I did like drums for, all just on Logic. But like, it was sort of the first like success story where I did it. I think I changed a little bit about the structure, and then we talked about it, and it actually helped us sort of develop the song a bit further. So these sort of experiences where you, despite it being remote, you kind of manage to work on it as a group. Those are really good success stories, and I think something why the song is sort of sticking out for me.
Brilliant. I mean, that's really interesting to hear that you guys have all got different opinions, and they all seem like really valid reasons for why, whether it's like where your sounds intermingle or like demos that you really loved or just things that you vibe with, like they're all different things, and there's so many different reasons an artist can love their own music as well as others. So I kind of wanted to talk about now a little bit. Obviously, if you haven't checked out the EP, you definitely should. There's like so much different on there, and as you guys mentioned, it's very diverse as well, so there's something on there for everyone. We'll make sure to link it down below on the YouTube, and you'll be able to find a link to the Spotify playlist for the show as well, which has got one of the tracks in it that we'll be playing next week. But I kind of want to mention as well, obviously this show is all about alternative music, emo kind of, it starts from a love from myself of Midwest emo that I've kind of discovered over the past year with pandemic and lockdowns. One really interesting thing that I thought we could talk about is kind of Toronto's music scene, because that's something that's quite alien for most of our listeners being in the UK. What would you say, kind of how would you describe Toronto's scene? How do things work? I know in the Midwest there's lots of house shows and things like that, whereas in the UK we really don't have that. Is there kind of a mix between the two?
I wouldn't say there's too many house shows. There's a lot of like smaller independent venues, like especially there's this downtown area we have called Kensington. It's really packed, and you'll find little venues that are just kind of like empty rooms. You'll get cool shows going on there. I think you'll find like the biggest thing is it's all very supported by itself. Like it's very self-funding. So like you have Vice, the Vice Canada magazine. They do a lot of events here. There's like Now Music, Exclaim. They're always throwing events. So the Canadians are kind of always pushing each other because it's kind of hard to break through on an international scale. So we've kind of got this support network for bands to try and push each other up, which is really nice.
Class. So you mentioned kind of Vice and Now UK. We get a little bit of that in the UK, but they kind of mainly cover bands. Who would you kind of love to work with in Canada? Where would you like to go? Who would you like to play potentially with, for? Or is there like a specific venue that you're like, that's the one that we're aiming for next?
Oh man, there's so many great venues. For me, I would probably say it's a smaller venue, but it's the Horseshoe Tavern. And a lot of great bands have played there, a lot of smaller bands. It's just like, it's a great kind of like a dive bar. It's got a venue in the back, but it's always a fun time to go to that place. Lots of legendary acts have played there over the years. I think it was like the Rolling Stones or something way back when, still sticking around. So that's definitely one I'd like to play.
I'd like to play like any show. I was just saying, like, I moved to Canada last year. Like I joined the band like right after I moved here, and I was like really looking forward to discovering like, I don't know, house shows or like doing a smaller tour of Canada or maybe the US or whatever. But then the whole lockdown thing happened, so I'll take whatever. I'll take any show. I'll play anything. I just want to kind of get going.
What about you, Mitch? Do you have anything that you kind of, anyone you'd like to work with, or anything you'd like with Vice or something like that?
That's a tough question. I can't really think of anyone specifically I'd like to work or tour with. Like I'd be down to go on tour with pretty much anybody. In terms of the venue, I'd have to agree with Michael on the Horseshoe. It seems like a really sort of iconic place in Toronto I'd really like to play at. In terms of like the house shows and stuff, you know, sort of like Michael was saying, like there's a lot of like independent venues around Toronto that are really sick to play at. There aren't really too many like house venues as far as I know, but you know, there's always like people that are always like, yo, like I'm having a party, like let's do a house show. And that's always like really fun to do. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that again post pandemic.
Nice. So kind of one thing I want to touch on real quick. Michael, you mentioned the kind of a dive bar, right? That it isn't a concept that we have in the UK.
Really?
Yeah. So could you just run us through very quickly what is a dive bar and what makes it different from just like any other bar?
Dive bar has no frills. It's not fancy. You know, the interior is not really upgraded or anything. They don't have any fancy signs. You just get kind of anyone come in. There's no dress code. There's no one classism in it. Anybody can go. You can wear a suit. You can wear like raggedy clothes. It doesn't matter. Anybody can go. That's what I really like about it. Sometimes it can be used as an insult to say like it's a really bad bar and like it's kind of sketchy and dangerous, but mainly it's used as a compliment because people like going there because you don't really have to care too much.
Nice. Thank you for that. Thank you. I'm sure our audience will really love that, because I know whenever I hear someone talking about it in an interview or whatever, I'm like, I just don't know what that means, you know? But Lucas, you mentioned kind of moving to Canada just before kind of the pandemic kicked off. And I know this might be a kind of difficult question to ask because the pandemic's meant you've not really been able to go out and experience it as much, but how have you found it kind of different, similar to kind of previous scenes that you've been in? and like different areas. How would you describe Toronto maybe compared to some of the previous?
Yeah, so it is a little bit difficult because I've only experienced it online, which is like horrific on the one hand. Like anything online is awful. I'm like promoting your band online, I find it awful. But
Yeah, Lucas, for doing that right.
Except this, of course. This for me is not really online because we're speaking to a real person, and we love what you do, and we know what you do.
Yeah.
I'm talking more about like the whole like screaming into the void and just kind of trying to like reach people. But what I would say is, especially with this type of music, I feel like it's a bit more like, obviously speaking of Midwest emo or like pop punk in general, I feel like there is a bigger scene here, and it's a bit more normal, I guess, or a bit more just like everybody knows it. Like you're 20 and you're into indie music, you'll know this genre, and you'll know at least like the bigger bands from that genre. I feel like, at least in my experience, I never lived in Manchester, I lived in London, but like, I don't know, something like post-punk were like sort of noisy post-punk, I don't know, like kind of Joy Division-y stuff in my experience. And coming here, like the whole twinkly guitar stuff is much more popular, and people respond to it much more positively and with more support, I feel like. So it's been pretty positive in my experience.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think one of the, like, part of this show and what I kind of want to do is expose the UK as many audiences as I can over here to it, because I think it's really, really great. But you are correct when you say people either don't know about it or just haven't experienced it or don't really get it until they listen to it. And that's what this show's all about, and getting it out there. And I thought the band Heavy Swearing are a great place to start, especially if you're looking outside of the US, which kind of typically tends to be seen as dominating in kind of these genres. But so you mentioned that kind of pop punk has quite a big place. Is alternative music quite fitting in Toronto? I mean, like in Manchester, there's lots of it, but in other cities, you'd get far more poppier venues. Does it fit in? Is it quite a big part of music, or is alternative still kind of, could it be growing more in Toronto?
Yeah, I think it's kind of always had a big impact. I mean, Alexis on Fire were huge here when they were doing their run. So that was like a big thing for Toronto. They would play all the biggest venues, and people that really weren't a fan of emo or punk screamo, they would call it music, they would still be into that band because it kind of gave them like a sense of pride. It's like they're from here, like they're doing good things. Now we kind of have like more bands kind of doing the same thing. Like Pup is doing really good right now. Yeah, like even heavier bands like Mets, Death from Above. Yeah, it's definitely a big thing. Obviously, our biggest exports, we have Drake and Justin Bieber. Those guys are kind of like going international with very alternative heavy. So we're very blessed to have that.
Nice. Yeah, I think that is kind of the go-to, is like when people think of Canadian music, they do go for Drake and things like that. But myself being like a massive pop fan, I know there's so much below the surface. You've just got to kind of dive in. But so we kind of talked about the EP a little bit. We talked about Toronto. We talked about music, your influences. Talk me through the music video next, if we can, for Dogwood. So what was the thinking behind that? What was the idea? What did you want to convey through the music video? Was it fun kind of getting to direct and do it all yourself? And why did you choose Dogwood for the music video?
Okay, so I guess maybe about a month before release, we were sort of finishing everything up. We decided like, all right, we need to do some sort of music video. We were talking about it, I guess, for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And then Michael came up with the idea of like me being in like a bathtub, and I don't know, just something super simple like that, because we knew we couldn't be together at that point. Like we were like, because I think at first we wanted to do something with the three of us, but then it was like, okay, like Mitch, like you got to do something by yourself. So we were thinking of like really simple ideas, and like I said, Michael came up with that idea. So I don't know, I think we were just like, we're brainstorming like props that we could bring in and just like how to make that as interesting as possible. So yeah, I got my girlfriend Daniela to film it. She did an excellent job. She made like all the cool lighting and stuff. And yeah, I had to I had to drink quite a bit just to get normal. I remember we did the first take, and my girlfriend Daniela looks at me and she goes, all right, you need to get drunk or something, like you're too awkward. So after about like 4 hours in the tub, to the guys, and they were blown away. Like, you guys didn't expect that, I don't think. I think what they had in mind was like a single shot video. But yeah, it turned out to be something a bit more than what we originally planned, which was good, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think I still look at it and laugh, so that's good.
Yeah, dude, I did not expect that much eye contact. Like when you send it over,
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it.
whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's quite organic, and like it really fits the band as well. I guess like maybe that just comes from I've heard the song, I've seen the music video, I knew the band kind of watched the music video first, but it does really fit, like it fits the style, the aesthetic of it, and the whole idea. I do have to ask though, whose idea was it to put the guitar in the bath as well?
I don't know. I think that was sort of a collective decision, but it was Lucas's guitar. When Lucas came to Canada, he sort of got like I don't know, toy instruments or like children.
No toy. I did buy like really cheap
Yeah.
shit because I had just moved here and I just needed like something to record
Yeah.
demos with or whatever. And I bought this like really cheap used Yamaha
Yeah.
Strat or whatever.
Wait, you tell me that wasn't a Leo Fender Strat from 1959?
I like the idea that it's like toy guitars.
Yeah.
I just went to Toys R Us. I got
Yeah.
a bunch of guitars.
Well, when you got it, you sort of had some anxiety. You were describing to me, like, did I buy a toy guitar? And
Sure.
ever since you said that,
You're right.
I always see it as that.
I'm still not sure. It seemed like a
Um,
little bit smaller or something, or too
Yeah.
too light or whatever. Like it wasn't a great guitar, so that's the reason we used it for that.
Yeah, we made a trade. I gave you one of my old guitars.
Yeah.
And then you gave me that one to basically destroy. I still have it.
It's probably gonna get some more abuse in the future, we think.
Yeah, it'll be reused.
Future of your music videos will just end up being this guitar getting smashed more and more and more over different
Yeah.
events and stuff like that. I like it though, and the music video will also be linked below. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go check it out after you finish watching the interview. But what's next for you guys? What's post-pandemic? Venues are open, kind of. Do you want to tour with the EP that you've got out now? Have you been writing? What's next for you guys?
We have been writing. We've been writing a storm. We got too many songs, to be honest. It's actually too many. We got lots of stuff, but we're kind of zoning in on what direction we want to go to. So we got looking at plans for the summer. We're going to do maybe a single, but we definitely think there's the potential for the full album. So maybe in between, if there's some shows we can play, that'd be great. But this band has high aspirations, man. We're going to the moon.
I think that's actually a good point, Reese, because like playing shows is sort of like the most important part of this whole thing. Like, at least to me, like personally, when it comes to like promoting music, or when it comes to like meeting people, or to like just getting your music out there. Like, I'd much rather play like, a small show somewhere in Toronto to a handful of people, rather than getting on like some stupid, playlist or whatever. Like it always feels so disconnected from the music that we're trying to make, to just be like in this online space. Like, I really want to bring it to like a physical place. So if we're able to play shows this year, that'd be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's one of the big things with the alt as well, is it like it's not meant. Spotify is great, and like it's great to find new bands and everything like that, but it is meant to be live. Like, this music is meant to be heard in front of you, whether you're like right at the front or it's a concert hall of like 100,000 people. So thank you very much kind of for running through that. One thing I'd like to do very, very quickly is just get a few maybe recommendations for you, either what's inspired the record, what inspires your music, or a few other kind of Canada-based bands that you'd like to plug, any friends that you might have that's making. So once the guys that watch this have gone and listened to you, they can kind of branch out organically from who you listen to as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's a band from this area, kind of similar music to us, that I really like. They're called Romancer. I don't think they're from Toronto. They're maybe from a bit further, but seen them live. They're a great band. They've still got the Midwest emo vibe. They're a little more pop punk, great vocals, great hooks. It's also a band, a good friend of ours, Zach is in. They're called Cicada. They make some dream pop kind of shoegaze kind of stuff. Yeah, those are my two recommendations off the top of my head, I would say.
I haven't met anyone here, so just go and listen to Single Mothers. That's probably my favorite Canadian band. Check them out. Apart from that, when it comes to like songwriting, I really like Joyce Manor and the stuff they're doing. They're like from the US, from California, but like those would be my 2 recommendations.
For me, I'd say Arm's Length. They're from Toronto. Sort of doing similar music to us. I just recently got into them. So yeah, I would check them out if you haven't. And if you haven't heard any, I guess, punk from Toronto, check out Pup. They're just sort of doing it the best. And other than that, in terms of like people that have inspired me, Modern Baseball, obviously, and Prince Daddy and the Hyena.
Nice, yeah. It feels like we're coming from very similar kind of music orientations, inspirations, bands that we love, but from other sides of the world. But thank you so much for joining me, boys. It's been really, really lovely, all the way from Canada. I really appreciate your time. Make sure you go check the boys out. There'll be links to Spotify, the music video. Go watch all of that. Go follow on Bandcamp. I think that you can pre-order a sweater as well, potentially. Does one of you want to mention that real quick?
Check out Linktree. You can order a sweater. We've already sent some to the UK. You got this beautiful loon. Look at that.
That's a Canadian duck.
Designed by
basically.
Yeah, but more beautiful. Beautiful sweaters. We can ship anywhere in the world. Find me the Linktree. It really helps us out.
No worries. Well, thank you ever so much, boys. Yeah, make sure you check everything down below, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us,
you,
Reese.
Reese.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
This is awesome, man.